Hello everybody, this is another boxing prediction video. It's been a while since the last one. I guess it just hasn't been enough, really exciting going on before this. And but finally now, uh, yeah, this next Saturday we have a couple of really interesting fights and a few others who might be, pretty good names, on paper fighting. Well, first of all, let's start with Virgil Ortiz Jr. versus Egidius Kavaliauskas. Yeah, so this is a welterweight fight, of course. It's a really good matchup because Virgil Ortiz is undefeated at 17-0, and all of his wins are by knockout so far. And he's coming off a very impressive victory over Maurice Hooker. Yeah. So yeah, while Kavaliauskas is a guy who has had also, well, he's lost to Terence Crawford, but he's had some good victories already. And even in that fight, he had some moments, of course. But yeah, I guess his best win so far was against David Avanesian. He stopped him in 6 rounds. And now in his last fight in September, he beat Mikhail Zevsky by a TKO in the 8th round. So Zevsky was 34-1. Yeah, so both guys are, tall welterweights. Ortiz is slightly taller by an inch. He's 5'10". And he is by far the younger guy by 10 years. He's 23 and Kavaliauskas is 33. So, yeah. I mean, the way he really impressively knocked out Hooker, it makes me believe this guy can really become a major star in that division, or even a super welterweight in future, because he's a big welterweight, as I said. So he's still very young, When his body starts to develop, he will surely have to move up. But until then, yeah, he is poised to become a real threat to Terence Crawford and Errol Spence Jr. So I can see, of course, Kavaliauskas giving Ortiz a really good fight, but I favor Ortiz to win because he's simply been nothing but dominant and awesome so far. This kid can fight, And Kavaliauskas, well, he's been pretty impressive too, but in his greatest test against Crawford, he was stopped, So it proves, if nothing, that he can be stopped. And I think that actually Ortiz probably hits a little bit harder than Crawford, actually, at least a little bit, because Crawford is usually a guy who stops his opponents. He breaks them down, gradually, and usually gets the stoppage, in the later rounds or after the 6th round anyway. Yeah, while Ortiz has had some really thunderous knockouts. Well, he does also usually take his time, maybe, but he has knocked out Mauricio Herrera in only 3 rounds. Ortiz, yeah. And he also knocked out the tough Samuel Vargas before that Hooker fight, yeah. So this is for the WBO International title, which Ortiz holds. This is his first defense. Well, my prediction would be that Ortiz wins, and likely by stoppage, because he's so far really been, knocking out everyone. And I don't know when that stoppage will come. It's possible that it will go the distance too, but I think most likely Ortiz will win by a knockout also here. And if he doesn't, it will just be a proof that Crawford really is the best. I mean, he's a beast. He is a beast. But if Ortiz fails to stop this guy, mean machine, he's called the Lithuanian, and I don't know. It will, I guess, mean that he simply isn't yet, you know, ready to take on to Crawford, but I think he is actually. So I think most likely a stoppage between 6th and 11th round will happen. Yeah. All right. That was that fight. And another really good one is bantamweight between John Real Casimero and Guillermo Rigondao. Yeah, so this may be the last, the last stand for Rigondao because he's now, what, 39 or something. Uh, so, yeah, he has had his share of fights, of course. Um, Even though he hasn't had that many in number, but he has had many high level fights. I would say quite many. Yeah. So yeah, I mean everybody was pretty much writing him off after the loss to Lomachenko, but that was simply about how good Lomachenko is. Yeah, and then he came back in 2019 and he stopped. He scored a couple of knockouts. He stopped Julio Ceja, who was a pretty good guy. I mean, good fighter. I don't know about how good guy he is, but he also held, I believe, a world title at bantamweight. Yeah, and then he wins against Liborio Solis to win his last. Actually, so I would presume that would be his last world title WBA. But then he vacated it because he's fighting for the WBO, because, which is held by Casimero, yeah, who knocked out Zolani Tete to win. That was very impressive. I mean, he destroyed a much taller guy who is a puncher also, but also a good boxer. He destroyed him in 3 rounds only. Wow, that was really something I did not expect. Even though Casimiro has been impressive before, and he's knocked out Rueng, previously undefeated technician, in only 4 rounds. So I kind of favor Casimiro to win because of that, because he's shown that he has no problem with guys who are slick, who are clever technicians, good defensive fighters. Even though is something special, but I think now at this point he may be, too far past his prime, to win this fight. I mean, it would take a really one last great effort from him to win here. Unless the judges should be on his side, of course. So, but I think most likely Casemiro will get him out of there before it can go to the scorecards, because he knows he's not based in the U.S., so he's a Filipino guy, so yeah, he will not be favored by the judges for sure. So yeah, I kind of lean towards Casemiro more to win, and probably by a stoppage. Even though you might say it will not be easy because Rigondeaux is still very good defensive and technical fighter. I mean, excellent, not just very good. But he's had he had some mileage. He has some mileage on him, to put it that way, simply. So yeah, that's right. I mean, it's a little bit hard, but to predict this. But as I said, I lean towards Casemiro winning by a stoppage within 10 rounds. Yeah. Either, I mean, I see two scenarios. Either Casemiro just kind of, breaks down Rigondao and stops him, or Rigondao gives him a really good fight and makes it tough for him, and then it can go, if it goes to the scorecards, it can be turn out to be anything, a draw, split decision, either way, whatever. So yeah, I think Casemiro, who is also now nearing the end of his prime years, he's 32. He will really jump at this opportunity. It's pretty important fight for him, yeah, definitely. So that's why I think he will really prove his worth here once again, and he will most likely stop the Jackal. All right, yeah, one more fight. Let's see. We have Gary Russell fighting against Emmanuel Rodriguez. Yeah, it doesn't look like, well, Rodriguez. Does have he beat Jason Maloney and Paul Butler, and yeah, but he was knocked out by Inoue in 2 rounds, and in his last fight he lost to a guy called Raymart Gabal by a split decision. Well, this guy Rodriguez, Manny, I guess he's a solid fighter. Boxtrack ranks him with 4 stars, so he must be good. And interestingly, they rank Russell at 3.5, but that's just nonsense, Well, Russell hasn't really fought. Oh yeah, sorry. This is Gary Antonio Russell. I'm sorry. I thought it was Gary Russell Jr. Well, in that case, I'm not interested. Let's see. Jason Maloney versus Joshua Greer Jr. Yeah. Well, Maloney, he lost by knockout to Inoue, but that was a brave fight. He lasted 7 rounds. Wow, that's really a lot against Inoue. So Joshua Greer Jr. he's a guy who is completely unknown to me. But he's beaten Nikolai Potapov, who I know of, a solid fighter. Antonio Nieves, I believe he fought Inoue, didn't he? I think so. He even lasted, yeah, that's right, 6 rounds against him. So, yeah. Of course, I don't know, Maloney is the favorite here because even though this guy is not bad, definitely, Joshua Greer Jr. But this fight is in Tulsa, Oklahoma. Wow. And yeah, so I favor Jason Maloney to win on points. We also have Joshua Franco versus the brother Andrew Maloney, but they already fought twice. Wow. Well, I think we'll stop it there. I think it's been enough. All right. So that was the whole round. Thank you for you who will watch this video, and I hope you enjoy the fights. Until next time, bye bye.